anizethu maqhawe ase-Azania kwenu akusoze kulibale kwenu kuyakukhanyisa indlela yabo bonke abaphansi kwengcindezelo anizethu maqhawe ase-Azania kwenu akusoze kulibale ukufa kwenu kuyakukhanyisa indlela yabo bonke abaphansi kwengcindezelo uzibutha isibamu siqonde phambili naso sonke isikhathi ibe isibane sethu maqhawe ngaphandle kwesibhamu nawanathula empini phambi kwezinhlamvu zesitha anizange niphelelwe ithemba lapho khona nathi phambili nenguqulelo ngaphandle kwesibhamu nawanathula empini phambi kwezinhlamvu zesitha anizange niphelelwe ithemba lapho khona nathi phambili nenguqulelo uzibutha isibamu siqonde phambili naso sonke isikhathi ibe isibane sethu maqhawe uzibutha isibamu siqonde phambili naso sonke isikhathi ibe isibane sethu maqhawe.
Isoleto Africa. Africa. Africa, we are now live in a discussion with Comrade Bani Hlatshwayo, Bani Nzolo, you know him with many other names, but he has his own formal names and rank presently. But as a leader of the Azanian People's Liberation Army, we are going to discuss the history of the PAC's military wing. In brief, we are going to discuss also the activities, the renewed activities of APLA in the country, a campaign that was taken particularly in the 80s when the PAC's military activities, the homegoing program was being increased. We are also going to discuss the life and times of Sabelo Phama, which we both knew and worked with very closely. And that's our program for today. We'll round it up and close it at the end. But it's a conversation in Africa. It's not we call it a masterclass, but the masterclass is everything. It's a discussion that is very free, can add value to our knowledge of our movement, the PAC, and our movement and its military wing. Comrade Benny, that's just an interview to let our participants in this live conversation understand where we're going in our discussion.
No, thank you, Comrade Jackie. As you correctly said, we'll touch a bit on the history of APLA. APLA was established in 1961-62, just when the Potro activists were being apprehended and most of them were sentenced to death. And those that could make it to Lesotho, they joined Comrade Tipokela to establish the external wing. So that's how APLA started. And we no longer refer to us as Upotro, but Upotro is our history. And then when they left Lesotho, they went then to countries such as Zambia. Zambia was the headquarters, the PAC, the APLA, until somewhere in the late 68, 69, 70, when the PAC was expelled from Zambia. We then moved to Tanzania. In a nutshell, during the Poco times, when APLA was established, we had people like Abu Gerald Kondlo, and his group, abantu abatrained from Algeria and countries such as Egypt. Then they formed the first group that endeavored through Mozambique, the Portuguese, with the aim of reaching South Africa, but unfortunately that did not succeed, and most of them were killed or some were apprehended. And if I'm not mistaken, until '94 we still had some comrades that were still in the jails in Mozambique, because if Frelimo felt we had no right to use the country. But after that, then General Kondlo, where people like Comrade Templeton Dantala became APLA commander. Later, people like Gessin Lovo. From Gessin Lovo, Enoch Zulu. So, in a nutshell, when Zulu was finally arrested, then we had to rebuild and reorganize the APLA. Some of us then were appointed into a structure that was called the task force. The task force, I think, of us, Abantube June 16, and then Abantube 1977 group, I think we formed largely the part of the young cadres. Nabantu abafana nabo, abo Comrade Ntantala, abo Gessin Lovo, abo Zulu, abo Kamela, and so then we established that task force.
Edwin Makoti was also Secretary for Defense, so he belongs to that group.
He belongs to that group. And the aim of establishing that task force was to retrain the APLA and by professionalize. We did not have in mind that we are about to go back home, we'll join the Defense Force as professional. But the leadership felt that the APLA must be professional. Remember, it comes also after the crisis, when some APLA members started threatening leadership, and some killed the late David Sabelo, and so on. But with that movement of reorganizing the APLA, I think the APLA then was on the right path to become what it became.
So, two things you raised which concern me. I think the comrades who were involved in engagement with we call it PIDE, the security agencies of the Portuguese, who engaged and fought with them in Villa Piri under the leadership of General Kondlo. Yes, I know that some of them were arrested, but don't you think they have disappeared, and politically we have not made enough inroads to find out what happened to them? Because those are our soldiers. Even now, we have a right to find out where they are. Frelimo took over later in 1975, and they should give an answer what happened to those comrades. The Portuguese should give us an answer what happened to our comrades.
I agree with you. The weakness that I personally saw was politically we did not capitalize on the good work APLA did. The same as the campaign in the 80s, when we were conducting operations. Our leadership did not capitalize on that. So it goes without saying that those that were arrested in Mozambique, we decided just to have peace with Mozambique instead of making noise and say, release our comrades. To me, it remains important that we be told where those comrades ended up.
Yeah, because I mean, there's been a exhumation and repatriation of the bodies and souls of the comrades who fell in the frontline states. It's an acceptable process that brings closure to the families and also to PAC. But let's put that aside. It's not our debate for today, but I was just raising it because it's something that we need to do politically. The second thing I wanted to touch on is the structure of APLA. You see, APLA, Azanian People's Liberation Army, seemed to me to be structured almost, or was structured almost the same way as China's People's Liberation Army. Is that correct assessment? Because of the training, the influence, and so on.
Let me say this. Originally, we followed much on the Chinese model, the communist model. But because we're being trained by diverse countries, such as Algeria, Egypt, Guinea-Conakry, Zimbabwe, Tanzania itself, Uganda, and so on. It meant now we had to take stock of what have we trained. Can we carry on with the People's Army type of a concept? I think we came to a decision that no, we need to professionalize, because you cannot train officers and treat them like rank and files. Officers must be nurtured. Officers must be groomed so that then they play that role. We had what then was called the CIA Commission. General Ngonyeni was tasked with General Fisher and General Zweni to establish what we call the CIA Mazamba. They did a very good study and a comparison. And they came up with a recommendation that APLA, if we are to fight the Boers, the aim should then be we should organize ourselves along the same lines, because you cannot depend on guerrilla warfare, 2 people fighting 12 people. The aim was, at the right time, probably we'll have regular forces. And if we have regular forces, they must be structured accordingly. So we then came up with a rank structure. Of course, this did not go very well within some cadres. The APLA who said we are turning a people's army into a white army, but we knew what we were doing. And that in itself assisted us even at integration. We were better organized, we knew exactly who must be appointed at what level.
Yeah, but theoretically, with the People's War strategy, you start with a small band of guerrillas. As you know, this is what we were engaging in. As the war increases and we recruit more and we get into the second level, which is between conventional and guerrilla warfare. And the third level, which we had not reached in our struggle, was a conventional war. With a people's war, which is more conventional, we would attack directly the enemy, the other side. Theoretically, that was the
ideal.
Yeah, but I think it's also a Maoist approach, because it doesn't necessarily mean, because a people's war means the people then join the ranks of the army. They take command from the officers you're talking about. So our ability to fuse the two, I think, was correct. It's just that obviously we debate these theories, we discuss these things, we sometimes disagree, which is not necessary. But you were involved in the practical implementation of it. Now, Comrade Bani, let's talk about the structure of APLA itself. How was it structured? From the top political...
The structure of APLA, we first and foremost were led by the Central Committee, which was the political body. Under the Central Committee, we had the Military Command, the Military Commission, the Military Commission, not the Military Command, the Military Commission, where 6 members of the Central Committee composed this Military Commission. It was Comrade Sabelo Phama, John Kwanazi, General Mfukem, you had Kamela, you had Edwin Makoti.
Yes, sir.
I was there, I was part and parcel of that. We were translating political guidelines of the Central Committee and make them understood by the High Command. And I think that structure worked well, because for the first time you did not have the Central Committee and the High Command. There was no structure that brings them together. It was premised on the bad history of the crisis. So when these structures were created, I think they brought in harmony. And then below the High Command, you then had what we called regional commands, like in Dar es Salaam. You would have your regional structure. You had your camp administration. Then in Zimbabwe, we had another structure in Botswana, in Lesotho, Swaziland. And this, the aim was to expand, creating such structures within the country.
You also had field commanders in operation.
Yeah, field commanders, we had them because remember, for those that were inside the country, some of them became members of High Command, but some were not members of the High Command. Yeah. So a member of the High Command would have under his control probably 5, 6 commanders operating under his guidance. Yeah. The aim was, at no stage must also the senior commander know exactly what is happening with the rest. Yeah. His was to organize the necessary support, logistics, finance, and so on. But allowing that those below him have got the necessary initiative to conduct their own operations, and they plan them. They don't need necessarily to keep him posted, because that was part of the safety valve that we tried to create. Yeah. And if I may just say this in passing, I think under General Sabelo Phama, he was this type of a given leader that allowed command initiative. He did not want to know on a daily basis what have you planned and what are you doing. You tell him, I've got this plan, I need so much resources, and then out of whatever the media was reporting and what the people at home were experiencing, it would then give the necessary feedback to the leadership that we were working. Yeah. So the command initiative, I did not learn it for the first time in the South African National Defence Force. In APLA, we were practicing it. Yeah. And I think when I first learned of it in a formal theoretical class, I said, oh, but we're doing this, so we're not worse off. So we're on the right path.
So the quality of training that you got from these countries, I know it's mostly infantry, intelligence, and guerrilla tactics, the theory of it, but how was it, comparably speaking? Were you producing good soldiers, good trained military men and women in Yugoslavia and places like that?
In APLA, what we did, you'd send people to this particular country. When they come back, they come and impart what they have learned. And we had a directorate of training under General Ngonyeni, who would then look at the best qualitative outputs of this type of a training and incorporate it in our syllabus. And then try and make sure that everyone benefits from it. And I can tell you, I was trained first in the People's Republic of China at the level of roughly a platoon commander with support weapons. And I must say, it did help me. And then support weapons plus how to create your own homemade weapons, like the explosives and so on. Yes, with a bit of political orientation, because we always emphasize that. Then after that, I was trained in the Sudan. The Sudan typically conventional, where now we're being trained at the company level with also support weapons, and also the commando training, the endurance, how to toughen a soldier. After that, coming back to Tanzania with all these classes and the mixture that we brought together, we were able to develop across the board the type of quality that we wanted. Then shortly, in '93, when the discussions, the talks in Pretoria were taking place, I decided to join and go and do staff training. And I trained with a number of good MK people, and I think that served as the right basis for us, because when we're taken through the conventional training, this was not a new chapter for us. And we were able to pass all the courses.
Good.
Pass all the courses, coming with your own experience and your training that you got from abroad. All this created the quality of leaders that we became.
So APLA, or rather the other way around, the African countries like Zimbabwe and our friends everywhere, Libya and so on, they helped us a lot in creating a professional, highly skilled operation called APLA.
They did. You know, if I can tell you, for instance, a country such as Guinea-Conakry, it was heavily French doctrine. But you get Libya was UK training, Zimbabwe UK training, Tanzania UK training. You understand? Now, by bringing together all these qualities, it helped us to understand the magnitude and the complexity of what type of training should our people be exposed to.
Yeah.
And thanks for us, when we came 94, it became a condition that whilst you'd be wearing a rank, you must still do all those courses. And we did not say no. We went through all those courses. I came in as a major general. I was told, no, you're too young. We can only make you a colonel. But I did courses that are meant for lieutenants, captains. I did all that, up to military law. And I did all those courses up to a point where, even if I was promoted, I did not owe any cost.
Yeah.
So, for bulk of us, those that integrated, I think we did our best, and it was not a question of they did us a favor.
Yeah.
We qualified in our own regard.
Yeah. And some who were even qualified were not given proper ranks.
Yes.
Because of the slight or disfavor that was made against our APLA forces.
No, not only APLA, including MK. I can tell you, I worked in the Directorate of Training. I was based in Valmarsdal. And knowing certain MK guys, some I trained with them in Zimbabwe. Then when they come, he's made a sergeant. And it was late for me to correct that because the Boers at that stage had the list that was submitted. But I think in due course we were able to address the small shortfalls. There are people who were ranked very, very low, but they retired as lieutenant generals because we had to correct some of these things.
Okay, let's go into the politics of APLA itself. The influence of Comrade Phokela was felt by almost everyone, both inside in the political sphere, in the army, and in the homegoing program. He, I think, should be credited for making up the link between the mission in exile, the internal underground, and the leadership in prison. And he managed to even go out. Remember, he was asking for a united front. He even approached the ANC to say MK and APLA must now go into the battlefield and we must not fight each other on the ground. So he needed to have that discussion. But I know that he did not get good reception from ANC.
No, not only from ANC, but I think also some people within the PAC. I must say we were so much unfortunate that we did not have Comrade John Nyati Phokela for too long. He made that impact within a short space of time. Remember, it was after the crisis within the PAC. He stabilized the PAC. He professionalized APLA. APLA, through the Military Command Council and the High Command, was under command of the PAC. Now, let's leave the issue of the discussion inside the country, the peace talks and so on. But at the time when Phokela was there, he was this shining light. And unfortunately, it dimmed so quickly because he was fine. He had undertaken a visit to Zimbabwe. He never made it back. And
he actually met with us in Gaborone, the underground leadership of the PAC inside the country.
And unfortunately,
this was in June of, is it 85?
Yeah, 85, somewhere there. And then we were blessed also by having Comrade Mlambo. Because at that time we were trying to get a leader from inside the country, not to be tarnished by politics of the exile factions. And I think we managed because also Comrade Mlambo propounded and promoted all policies and positions that were pushed by Comrade John Yatipokele. And what an eloquent leader, respected by SADC, respected by the African Union, respected even by United Nations. So it was just unfortunate that we had to lose him. But all his work was not in vain, because some of us, through his teachings, were able to continue to strive for his teachings. Like, for instance, do not take sides with any faction. Call everybody to come together. Let's forgive one another. Let's build the party. If Jackie is elected a leader, I must accept that Jackie has been elected a leader, rather than me being Barney, have that anger that it should have been me. He taught us all those things. And I still feel that those were proper teachings from a great leader. And if today the PAC leadership, or all those that claim to be PAC, were following that, I think we'd see a remarkable change.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we must learn from our heroes. We're enjoying heroes, and that's the purpose of discussions such as this. I want us now to talk about Sabelo. You know, when I met Sabelo, I actually thought he was younger than me. He had a baby face. And I think it was in Lesotho around 80 or so, just after he had infiltrated the country and gone back to exile. So this old man, Titamba and others at Maseru High School said, no, we're going to introduce you to someone. And they brought subs. I mean, I thought it was because I was young too. I mean, I thought it was like talk to someone your age. And to subs who crowed him.
No, he was very old.
Oh, he had a baby face.
He was very old. If I'm not wrong, Sabelo
was 1948.
1948.
Yeah.
And that is why, personally, I would say, had he integrated in the Defense Force, he would have been amongst the first APLA generals.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, again, death robbed us. We couldn't. The only deal we had was when we had a temporary brigadier and the rest colonels in 94. But I still feel that had Sabelo Phama lived, it would have really looked different. And I must say, if I speak about Comrade Phama, Comrade Phama did not have this animosity towards the ANC, did not have animosity with the PCM. He taught us that these are comrades. I remember he would send me to go and fetch Comrade Joe Mdise at the airport in Harare and drive Comrade Joe Mdise to the ANC houses. And I think some of us, with some comrades from the ANC, like the late Shorty, we learned that we are one. Actually, we should not be spending time push and pull and so on. And I can tell you, it was because of Comrade Phama. Comrade Phama taught us to be modest, not to have an attitude because you belong to this party or that party. Like I said, also the command initiative, he allowed us. If you are a commissar, go plan your things, come back and tell him what your plan is and what resources do you need. If you are dealing with operations, I would do the same thing. If you're dealing with logistics, go and plan and see how you want to support. And I think it did assist us to have that sense of responsibility and to remain accountable. Because it's easy at times you find you planned, you implement your plan, and then at the end you decide not to be accountable. That was not the issue.
Yeah. But Sab had he was charming. I always hear the cadres talking about him. They say Sabs. He would turn someone who's very angry and anxious and all those frustrations as exile. I'm telling you, number one, number one. Number two, nothing. So
Sabs was more of a commissar and a politician. But he did not lose sight of the military and its strict hierarchy and the discipline that went with that. So he was a balanced leader.
Yeah.
Balanced to a point where he had complete confidence into people he worked with.
Yeah.
So it's true what you are saying. You know, I would remember, maybe you are angry, he would just call you. Now, some of us will learn closer through him. It's like comrades or fellow African.
Okay.
You know, I did not even understand what is Kamush, but he would deal with us, you know, fairly.
Yeah.
And I remember also when it was time to get some people appointed, he would try not to oppose other views. You know, like I would say, I want so and so to become a member of the command. He would leave us to argue. He will only come at the end. And if you have lost the argument, he will tell you, be humble enough. You just came up with the name. You failed to motivate. So that was the type of a leader that I worked under. And yes, he played his part largely at the political level through the organization of African Union, the Liberation Committee, the UN, and other specific countries, like the type of support we received from countries such as Zimbabwe, Uganda, Egypt, Guinea-Conakry, and so on.
Yeah.
So he did play his part.
I was in the group of 12 that he took to China for training towards the end. So he had diplomacy as well, and he had a way of dealing with things. But what I like about SAPS is that I found that in the camps, all our members, all our combatants who were trained there, they liked him. I mean, and he knew them one by one. I mean, he would walk me out and say, and here's his problem. And I found out, there was a fellow from Sebukeng or so, liked to sing, had no discipline like all artists are. But he understood him, and he talked to him like an elder brother, knowing how a young fellow must go through. But he's a good soldier still.
No, he did give everyone a chance. And if you were not up to the discipline, he would require maybe some of the people around to assist him, to mold him, but not to condemn you. And as a result, some were really bad soldiers, but in later years, they became fine soldiers.
Okay, because the training
the training comes. And you can imagine a person like General Nkonyen. He took no nonsense.
He
took no prisoners. If we are wrong, we are wrong. No two ways about it. And at times, some of us would come to cool off the type of harsh treatment and say, no, please, can we assist this poor African? And in due course, you find the guy, once you take him to the home front, maybe in Botswana, he excels.
No, but most of our commanders in APLA, actually from the training and the influence of your leadership, your collective leadership, they came up tops. You know, I'm not saying this for free, because the boss, particularly the police and others who were engaged with the PAC at negotiations, they admitted to that. You know, they said our soldiers, unlike others, our soldiers were good at close combat. And they fought it out. They fight it out. They fight it out to the end.
We had one understanding. If you surrender, you are dead. But if you fight, it could be the 4 bullets that you shot that saves your life. And our troops understood that one. That don't surrender.
So our fighters were, I mean, you know, they made this with detail, with commitment, with sacrifice, so they would die for this. And I know some of your commanders also fell in the battlefields. And they also, the boss also commended our fighting methods, because there was this thing of using a hand grenade with nades, you know, I'm a speaker around it, and
to amplify the damage.
Yes. So that's innovative and creative, and they would say these things, you know, you guys are different.
We did not have sufficient equipment, weaponry, bullets and so on. So you had to think outside the norm and say, if I use this type of a method, can I get a better destruction power and so on.
Yeah.
Of course, remember not to say we did not follow the law of armed conflict.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Boers did not follow the law of armed conflict.
Yeah, they did not.
When you shoot the innocent citizens in the street, then you tell me who's defending the people. I must observe the law of armed conflict. We later adapted to understand when we became conventional troops and so on.
Yeah, yeah. The Geneva Convention around civilians and so on. Yeah. No, I get you. The two things we're drawing to a close. How did Sabelo's death affect you? What happened around those circumstances? How did that to you personally? How did it affect you?
No, personally,
I know that I cried when I just felt.
I was really devastated because I was doing a course in Zimbabwe, and we were almost due to complete our training. I think if I'm not mistaken, we finished around 25 March.
And the course itself.
Yeah, the course. And Sabelo died somewhere in February. 9th of February. 9th of February. Now, can you imagine, whilst you are a student and you get a call from home, from Comrade Johnson Mlambo, saying, unfortunately, we don't have anyone. You are the only one who must go to Sabelo Phama's wife and break the news. I did not have guts. I had to go through Babus Fuba and Sis Joyce Sifuba to ask them, let them accompany me. So I had to go and tell the wife, this is what happened. And I must say, at first, I really did not know what happened. There were all sorts of conspiracies. Probably was eliminated, he was what. But what gave me courage that we will know finally the truth was that the person who was traveling with Comrade Sabs in the car survived. He's still alive. Comrade Victor Mokhashwa. So Victor Mokhashwa is the one who narrated what really happened. So not to say Sabelo Phama was eliminated or what. It was an unfortunate accident in a road that was being repaired far ahead, and there was a detour. And Comrade Phama did not see that he's supposed to slow down and get on the detour. And a truck appeared from the detour. And he ended up in the trailer. And he died instantly. But fortunately, Victor is surviving, and he's the one who knows what really happened. And to me, I have got no reason to doubt what Comrade Victor told us what happened.
The PSC put a commission to find, I don't remember the report, but we did send people out to give us the sum up of what you're saying now. I think we send lawyers and so on. But the other thing that I would have wanted you to conclude on is yourself and your rank in the army. You're now retired, I believe. Is it a year now? Retired.
It's a few months.
But what do you think? It's few months. You must have retired now in 2020.
I've retired 2019 November.
Yeah.
I was still assisting with the handing and taking over for 2 months.
Yeah.
So December, January, I was still being called up and down.
Yeah.
So from February, March, April, May, June, July. So roughly it's about 7 months.
Yeah, and you retired during the time of Corona, so you must look after yourself and plan your way ahead.
My brother, I always tell my wife, I pity the colleagues that are holding the fort. Some of us probably were retired at the right time.
Yeah.
Because it's never easy there. It's never easy. We are all dealing with this pandemic. And can you imagine sending your troops everywhere, sending your doctors and nurses, And we, the military, we are the last line of defense. So we are the last to say, no, there's a pandemic, we should not work. So I'm saying, well, being at home, one appreciates it, and I hope the colleagues that I've left behind will be equal to the task, and we will overcome.
But what do you say yourself? Because I mean, in our period in the armed struggle, you have an illustrious career, no doubt about it. You ended up being a lieutenant general in the military council, you call it. But how do you feel about some of our comrades who fell, who fell in the battlefield? What support did some of the youngsters that we brought in, and we gave them instructions and so on, and some who fell in this part?
The most unfortunate part of being a freedom fighter, we never fought with the aim that we will survive, come what may. We thought it's a commitment, we may not make it. That politically, we resolved all our differences, and there was negotiations, and we had to come back and suspend armed struggle. Was not an easy path. And even amongst us as APLA, I think also even within MK, there were always these insults. We have sold out, you have done this, you have done that. But with time, we were able to shape the country to what it is and contribute. And today, I don't even know anyone who can say we sold out. Because even those that were saying we sold out, later on came back to us to fill in an affidavit so that he could also get some of his benefits that are due to him. And I always laugh and say, it's easy to insult somebody, but the truth be told, yes, we wanted to fight up to the bitter end, but the leaders, the political leaders, were wise enough to say no, we cannot fight up to the bitter end. Can we allow that politics shape the peace and the future of the country?
But what do you say about our heroes? You know, we're celebrating Heroes Month, so that's why I'm talking about comrades who fell. What can be done? There are many things that are being said, like for instance, give them medals, give them decent burials, give them recognition, make a wall of remembrance, make a grave and call it the tomb of an unknown soldier. Anything that says, remember those who fell.
That one, I would like to believe there is a memorial site here in Pretoria. It was meant to cover all those that passed on. Two, for those that wanted to bring back the remains, the government has always been very supportive of that. I think it's entirely within that political party and the family concerned to approach the right structures of government, so that then you are able to be taken to where your beloved one was buried. We in APLA had kept a record through Comrade Sabelo. Comrade Sabelo was our medic. He kept all the records of all the graves of APLA. I think to best of his ability, except those maybe that died in Mozambique or somewhere else in Zambia. But in Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Swaziland, Lesotho, I think he did a sterling job. So the government, I would like to believe, they are committed to make sure that families must come forward and be assisted. But again, therein comes again the role of the so-called, or our so-called military veterans, and the role that they ought to be playing. Because with infights, you lose focus on what must be achieved. Instead of helping those families that require our support and to solicit the buy-in of the government, we spend more time with infights. So, but it's a correct position that we are putting forward, that we must never forget about those that finally never made it home. The Qasha Snakes, 6. Those that died in Beya, those that died in car accidents, and so on.
We also had women guerrillas. I'm reminded when you talk about Qasha Snake, because one of the comrades was female. Did we have a strong female side in our camps where our women comrades were built up?
It became a deliberate program at some stage, because we ended up having 3 members of High Command being female.
Name them.
Uzoto.
Oh yeah, Uzoto. Uzoto,
yes.
no, huh?
I think I'll call her surname Uzoto.
Yeah. She died, I know.
Yeah, she passed on, I think, Mfazila Blacks. I think Boniswa, the one who died in Qasha Snakes, was posthumously elevated to be part and parcel of the seniors. And we had a program, because remember, initially we were heavily men with few women, but in later years of our recruitment and our struggle, we started getting quite a good number. And if you remember, people like, what is the name now? She was in Switzerland. This woman.
Okay, I know. That was related to John Kanye.
Yeah, the one was related to John Kanye. Nomakwez and a friend. Nobo Masbeko. Masbeko rose up to members of the Central Committee, and they had an impact.
Yes.
And so on. So, not to say really we never had, a deliberate program of uplifting women and accepting the role. We did have, and those that were there were quite powerful.
No, even the troops were also very powerful. Abo Pedi.
Abo Mapoy. General Mapoy. General Mapoy, wow, later on she had to move to the US, but she came back. She became a general. Abu first got the daughter got the late Makot, Mavis.
Mavis, she was, I remember the last time she was pushed at ambassadorial as a
military attaché in Spain.
So we made a lot. Comrade, I want to thank you for this. This is the last. What are your favorite songs? We are going to close this discussion using at least one of them. If you give me 5, I'm a good job.
A favorite?
No, anyone that you like, even if it's not favorite. So you just give me 5.
That's what. Then is this naughty boy Bokurmangai? Smash. No, I Pulama could use up from Shai. Molo Africa, Imbilendao, Agumbilendao, Mama, Imbilend, Inetilo, Semanzinima, Imbilendao, Agumbilendao.
Sure. No. So.
I think otherwise, when the Tatan Jamajiskata said,
Israel.
Africa.
Africa.
Israel.